How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your weekly forecast of what the fuck is going on in the universe for December 4th through December 10th. Before we begin, I'd like to say this weekend on December 8th, I'm going to be with Chris Brennan, Adam Sommer, Lisa Scheim, and Marilyn Maginity. I think I pronounced that right. Anyway, we're doing a 2019 forecast for the Denver Astrology Meetup at the Mercury Cafe at 3 p.m. So if anyone here, or if you guys are watching, you guys in Denver, make sure you guys go to that. It's going to be super cool. We're just going to basically be going all into the astrology of 2019 and what it's going to be about. So if you guys can make it, it's on December 8th at 3 p.m. at the Mercury Cafe in downtown Denver. So with that being said, I'd also like to say today's been a little bit interesting, hasn't it? Now that we have Mercury back in Scorpio, Venus back in Scorpio, and the moon being back in Scorpio, you know, the moon goes in Scorpio all the time, but I think the moon being there is really bringing up all this Scorpio stuff. And so I think it's kind of easy to say, like, we're here, you know, we've kind of had that really good time with that Jupiter stuff, but now that Venus is back in Scorpio, she's still going through shadow, and Mercury's going through Scorpio, with the moon being in Scorpio today on Monday. It's kind of like you're probably feeling that sense of coming back to like where you were a couple weeks ago, but facing it with a new perspective and a more of a, not necessarily you're going through it, but you're coming out of it type feeling. And so that's going to be kind of positive, but at the same time, with all of this Scorpio energy that we're feeling, it could still feel gunky, it could still feel yucky, it could still feel really, really weird. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. Like, there were no planets in Scorpio there for like a couple weeks. And then all of a sudden, Mercury's back, Venus is back, and the moon's going to be right there just to highlight all of it all. And that's how we're starting off this week. So if you felt kind of weird on this Monday, that's okay. Like, it is a little bit raw, it is a little bit intense. But let's go on with the rest of the week because we still have a lot of things to cover and a lot of things to go really into that are going to be mostly positive. Starting off with Monday, yeah, we have all of that being there. Mercury has been in Scorpio for the past couple days. Same thing with Venus. She went into Scorpio, I believe, yesterday. So it's been there, but I think with the moon being in Scorpio, it's really highlighting all of this and bringing a lot of more emotional like attention to the Scorpio stuff of like, hey, Venus is back in there now, where it's kind of like she's got to be raw, she's got to be real, and she's got to be truthful of, you know, what she wants. And Mercury being back in Scorpio but still retrograde is probably, a lot of that's probably starting to come to realization, but it could still be hard to really recognize or be extremely aware of, I guess, in a sense. So as we move forward into Tuesday, Mercury is going to hit 27 degrees, where it won't be exactly at the minute, but it's basically still at that stationing degree. So Mercury is going to be slowing down, basically stalling right there at 27 degrees Scorpio starting on Tuesday. And we're going to have the moon starting to trine Mars and Neptune. So as the moon goes through Scorpio and it trines Mars, while Mars is, you know, starting to get really, really close to Neptune, I think this is going to be a little bit more revealing of like, okay, this is what I'm feeling, this is what, you know, what is being exposed, what is my next step? And with Mars being so close to Neptune at this point, it could feel like, oh man, you don't know what's around the corner, you don't know what's kind of next. But the moon shining Mars is kind of like, this is going to be a really good time to kind of apply what you've been kind of feeling and doing something different with, you know, how you actually act about it, how you actually go about, you know, handling the situation. With Mars being in Pisces, it could be really easy to avoid things, to, you know, want to just, you know, basically avoid anything in any way, shape, or form. It's Mars in Pisces. So make sure that you don't do that. But I believe this moon in Scorpio is going to kind of help you get a grasp on it, to where it's not like you're being forced to look at it in a really angry way, but you're looking at it for what it is in a way that's going to be able, that you're going to be able to take it in a more positive way and be able to actually do something with it. So that's just what's going on for Tuesday. As we go into Wednesday, though, as we go into Wednesday on December 5th, we are going to have the sun squaring Neptune. And so as the sun's been in Sagittarius, where it's kind of explorative, it wants to adventure, it wants to not necessarily express, but it wants to feel, and it wants direction. More of direction in a form of clarity, in a form of inspiration, in a form of belief, and kind of like opening up that mindset type of stuff. The sun being in Sagittarius, yeah, things are a little bit more fun, things are a little bit more exciting. You're trying to look for bigger and more, I guess, bigger ways, different avenues, looking for different roads. As the sun squares Neptune, though, where Neptune's being in Pisces, where, you know, Neptune's in Pisces, what are you going to do? That's the best way to kind of put it. It's kind of just blanketing that whole sign. But as the sun squares Neptune, I think this is going to shed a little bit of light into what that direction really is. And Neptune is kind of this planet of, you know, illusion and duality, and it can really saturate things really, really well, and kind of like too much. Like, if you ever seen like a deep fried meme, I feel like that's like Neptune in Pisces. And when you have the sun squaring it, where you're going to see kind of a conflict, kind of an issue, but there's going to be some type of, you know, kind of breakthrough to go with. Because I mean, we do have Jupiter in Sagittarius as well. Like Sagittarius is doing some good stuff. I do think that a part of you is going to realize, you know, hey, like this isn't the big picture. This kind of picture is kind of looking a little bit blurry. Why don't you expand your avenues into something else? And I really think that's what the Sun square Neptune is going to be, where it's going to be kind of like, yeah, it wasn't exactly what you wanted it to look like, but it's giving you the opportunity to expand in somewhere else, and you still have, you know, different opportunities to explore. And so on Wednesday as well, we have the moon conjuncting Mercury, where Mercury is just about to station direct and the moon's at like the last degrees of Scorpio. I think this is going to be kind of getting into a critical mindset and a critical emotional and analysis of like, what am I feeling? What is the truth? What is coming out? You know, what do I need to express? What do I need to understand? And as the moon hits Mercury, I think that is going to be kind of, you know, a little bit anxious, but I do believe it's going to help you get to that point that you need to have in order to get that clarity, in order to get that sense of direction, and in order to really get down to the bottom of it. So then we also have the moon going into Sagittarius later on Wednesday, where, okay, we got critical, we got intense, now we get to explore, now we get to have fun, now we get to see the positive end of it, kind of. So then on Thursday, we have the moon going into Sag. It's going to conjunct Jupiter. We have the new moon in Sag beginning. It's going to be late into December 6th, going into December 7th. However, the new moon is going to begin, Mercury is going to go direct, and Mars is going to hit Neptune. So that's a lot happening on Thursday because, you know, we had that kind of intense moon in Scorpio as we go into Thursday on December 6th when we have this new moon. Moon's going to conjunct Jupiter. It's going to be really exciting, but I don't want to put it in a sense like, oh my God, everything's going to be amazing. It's just going to be exciting because now that Jupiter's in Sag, he already conjunct the sun. The sun's starting to leave Jupiter's presence, basically. Jupiter's starting to become out of the beams. You know, this Jupiter energy is really starting to evolve itself and make itself very present when it comes to things having a more positive turn, you know, things having more of an exciting opportunity. Jupiter is all about abundance. He wants to bring gifts. When he wants things to be good, he's going to make sure that they're really, really good. And I think the thing is, though, with Jupiter at this time, where Jupiter's still very early in Sagittarius, we still have more to go. I think Jupiter's just holding on to the imagery and a lot of more of what it's kind of bringing up on a soul level. And as the moon hits Jupiter, I think this is going to give us that inspiration to be like, what does moving ahead look like? Where can I look at these positive things? What really can I bring awareness to myself? Because, I mean, again, we're having the new moon in Sagittarius. We're kind of cleaning out and clearing out all this energy anyway and allowing for the new. So as the moon hits Jupiter, I really think this is going to be a big time to really go, hey, like, we've realized what's going on. We're a lot more clearer now on what moving forward looks like. What are the positive things that we can look at? What can we look to hope for? What can we put some faith into? And what can we get excited about? And so then after the moon hits Jupiter, it's going to have the new moon, clearing out all that energy, get excited. It's Sagittarius, you know, what do you believe? What's your philosophy? You know, do you want to learn something new, go somewhere far and distant, stuff like that. You know, Sagittarius is really fun, explorative energy. So then we also have Mercury going direct where it's like, all right, you know, we're clear. I understand. I see where, you know, I need to be looking at. Like if you watched my December horoscopes or if you watched my new moon horoscopes, which I did horoscopes about the new moon in Sagittarius if you guys want to check those out. However, Mercury going direct in Scorpio is like getting your scope dialed in to where you have the clearest shot. And I think this is going to be a really big time to where you're going to really see everything for what it is and still be able to choose having, you know, a more positive imagery around it, having more of a positive experience. It's going to be like, yeah, this may be, you know, very realistic, not saying it's good or it's bad, but it's just very realistic, whatever that's going to look like for you. And I think being able to take that in on a very mental level, on a very, you know, mercurial level is going to help us really expand on, you know, this new moon in Sagittarius, or the moon hitting Jupiter as well. It's kind of like, all right, well, where do we go from here? What does this mean? What do we believe with all this? And the same day, we have Mars hitting Neptune. And I think this is where our problem is really going to be lying on, because this new moon's going to be squaring it. You know, Mars on top of Neptune is already just confusing as it is. But Neptune is a planet of duality, and it's a planet about illusion. It's a planet about spirituality. It's a planet about things that are unknown and that are mystified. And so I think Mars hitting right here where, you know, Mars is generally anger. Mars is frustration. He's aggression. He's, you know, Mars is a lot of things. He's very, you know, tactful. He's very, you know, go-getter type energy, but he can also cause some issues on the way. And I think Mars hitting Neptune is really going to have a lot of clarity, but like I think I said this a lot in my new moon horoscopes was, I think there's going to be a lot of black and white imagery of this is what, you know, makes sense, this is what doesn't make sense. This is what I'm leaning on, this is what I'm not leaning on. And especially with Mars being this planet of problems, and especially this planet of what you need to kind of not necessarily attack with, even though that is a Mars word, more of how you need to go about things. You know, where is your energy going to be really directed towards? And with Mars hitting Neptune, where it is going to be very confusing, I think there's going to be that spiritual like clarity of like what the duality really is, putting things into a black and white sense, and you being able to take the action from there. But I do believe that's going to be the problem of now things are black and white. Which side is which, you know, where do I really go with this? And then my biggest advice is while this new moon in Sag is happening, while Mars is doing that, like, it's not about picking anything. It's about seeing things for what they are and letting yourself choose in the moment what's going to be best for you. And I really think that's going to be really important during this new moon in Sagittarius. What's going to be best for you? What's going to be more enlightening? What's going to be more expansive? And what's going to be more abundant? So then, as we move forward into Friday, we're still, I mean, basically, like, with Mercury going direct and Mars hitting Neptune, that's kind of like all Thursday and Friday. So thank God we kind of have like a little chill out on Friday, because the new moon is going to happen super late on December 6th. Basically, we'll wake up and feel it on the 7th, and we basically experience that on the 7th. But then going into Saturday on December 8th, we do have the moon going into Capricorn, where this is going to get a little bit more serious, not necessarily on the moon in Scorpio level, where it's like analyzing your emotions. What are you feeling? What are you going through? Tell me it all. The moon in Capricorn's like, we got to get shit done. Like, I don't have time for your emotions. Like, we got to work. We're on the clock. So as the moon goes into Capricorn, it's going to conjunct Saturn, and it's going to sextile Venus. And so I do think that this moon in Capricorn is going to give us that ability to really detach from the emotion, like the emotional nature of what's been going on, and let us kind of like, okay, like it's time to get serious. What do we want to do? Venus is going to be in Scorpio, and she's direct now. She's still in shadow, but she's wanting video cut out, right back into it. Venus is in Scorpio, you know, she's, like I've been saying, you know, it's kind of like she's going through a dark area and she knows that she can handle it. She just got to make it out. And as Venus is sextiling, or I should say the moon is sextiling Venus and it's on top of Saturn, it's kind of like this moon in Capricorn, or yeah, the moon being in Capricorn, being on top of Saturn, being sextile Venus, is kind of like, all right, we got to apply this, you know, we kind of have to put up our shields, put up our guard, be able to just plow through it and know that we can get through it as long as we just focus and put our effort into it. So I think the moon in Capricorn is really just going to help us build and establish what this new moon in Sagittarius kind of enlightened us with. As well, on Saturday, the sun is going to be leaving its conjunction with Jupiter. And so as Jupiter starts to become out of the beams of the sun, you can start to actually see him in it'll be the morning sky. This is when I think Jupiter's energy is really going to start becoming a little bit more prevalent. It's not going to be so hidden by the sun. It's not going to be, you know, blacked out or anything like that. As Jupiter starts to become more and more in our actual night sky, or morning sky I should say, his energy is going to be a little bit more present. It's going to be a little bit more welcoming. It's going to be a little bit more easier to see and easier to spot in your life. So then basically on Sunday we have the moon hitting Pluto, which is like whatever, like moon's just going to be in Capricorn, like it's time to just focus and it's time to just be on it, I guess. Not necessarily like, oh, you got to work, but hey, you know, what is it that you're still trying to build? Moon hitting Pluto is kind of like a little bit of a cringy moment, but you could still work through it. It is going to be sextiling Mars, and it is going to be sextiling Neptune, though. And so I think as the moon continues to move through Capricorn and it starts to sextile Mars and Neptune, this is where it's going to be kind of like, okay, like now with this whole Mars stuff where, you know, which direction do I take? You know, it's black or white and it's confusing, but I'm also trusting my intuition. The moon in Capricorn is kind of like, yeah, keep like that whole motivation of like being able to detach from the emotional side of things, being able to more like fixate on like what needs to be done, how you need to actually be addressing things in a more mature and Saturn level. That's going to give you the clarity you need to make the next step, to go in the direction that you need to be going in. It's going to basically just alleviate some of Mars's confusion at the moment. And then on Monday, we have the moon going into Aquarius right after it squares Uranus, and as it goes into Aquarius, it's going to square Venus as we go into Monday when you watch this again. And I think as the moon goes into Aquarius and squares Uranus and Venus, this is going to be kind of like, all right, like now it's time to really start branching out from there. What did we experience? What did we reset? Now we had the moon in Capricorn. How do we need to address things? Now how do we need to branch out with that? How do we need to continue moving forward with that? And so I think as we go into next week too, we're going to have a couple other things going on. But this week, guys, I want you to just focus on this week and go through this week. Experience it. It's not going to be like, you know, I mean, honestly, I feel like after what we went through this past summer, like whatever. We can handle anything. But this is going to be pretty real and raw, but this is going to be good. I mean, this is still a lot of Sag and Jupiter energy. So with that being said, that's what I got for you guys. You know, definitely check out your new moon horoscopes that I did for all the signs. As well, if you guys are in Denver, check out the 2019 astrology meetup that we're doing as well. Thank you guys for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and I'll be seeing you guys for the next video.